Good morning, everybody. I'm going to go ahead and call the meeting to order for the November 19th meeting of the City of San Angelo Development Corporation. I want to welcome everybody. Before we get started, I would ask Mr. Tony Villarreal to lead us in a word of prayer.
Thank you. Please bow with me. Oh, Heavenly Father, we give you thanks today for every blessing that you continue to bless us with, especially this community and all the people that make this community what it is, that you may continue blessing us in everything that we do, that we always may have you in mind, Lord, and that you may guide us in all the decisions we make today. For all this, we give you thanks and praise. Amen.
Amen. Thank you, Tony. All right. First order of business, public comment. The board takes public comment on all items on the regular agenda. Public input on a regular agenda item will be taken at its appropriate discussion. Public input on item not on the agenda or consent agenda may be identified and requested for consideration by the board at this time. The board may request an item be placed on a future agenda or for a consent agenda item to be moved to the regular agenda for public comment. And I'm going to ask that we move our October 2014 financial statements to the regular agenda. We were a little bit late in getting those out, and so for public transparency, I want to make sure that everybody has a chance to review those. And Ms. Rebecca Tambunga is with us, so she's prepared to make that report. So, did everybody have a chance to look at the consent agenda items?
Yes.
If so, I need a motion.
Move approval. I'll second.
All right, so I have a move to approve items 1 and 2, leaving off 3. And a second. Any discussion? Call for the vote. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. All right, regular agenda items. Consideration and approving of the October 2014 financial statements and any action in connection thereto. Ms. Rebecca Tambunga. Good morning.
Good morning. Okay. I do apologize for getting your financials out to you late. So for October financials, if you take a look at the executive summary, our unreserved fund balance for our economic development side is sitting at $6.9 million. And for our ballot side, we have $1.2 million. Our sales tax for the month of October was $754,000. As you can see, we were up 8.62%, which is compared to last October. Year to date, we are in excess of $60,000. And for your economic development side, on the balance sheet, we have our assets, our cash and investment sitting at a little over $9 million. Our sales tax receivable of $402,000. Your fixed assets at $3.3 million. Total assets being $12.7 million. For the liabilities and fund equity side, we have payables due of $74,000. And on the fund equity side, a designation for your economic development projects, a $2.3 million. Reserved for those fixed assets at $3.3 million, bringing that to your fund balance of that $6.9 million. On the revenue and expense report for your economic development side, revenues, of course, we had our sales tax revenue of $207,000, interest on investments of $330. So your total revenues were almost $208,000. On the expenditures, we mainly just had administrative cost of $11,000, so we were revenue over expenses of $195,000. Page 5 breaks down those economic development projects that we are committed to. As you can see, we have that commitment of $2.3 million. So for the ballot side, on your balance sheet, your assets, we have cash and investments of $3.8 million, sales tax receivable of a little over $1 million, bringing the total assets to $4.8 million. And on the fund equity side, we have designation for affordable housing of $293,000 and voter-approved projects of $3.3 million, bringing that fund balance to $1.2 million. On the revenue and expense report for the ballot side, our revenues, of course, are sales tax of $533,000, and on the expenses, we just had affordable housing for the month of $47,000. So we were revenue over expenses of $485,000. Page 8 gives you the breakdown of the ballot projects. As you can see, our commitment this year for sports facility maintenance will be $268,895, and for affordable housing, they have a balance of $293,792, bringing the commitments on those ballot projects to $562,000. That concludes my October financials. If there's any questions.
Any questions?
Make a motion that we approve the October 2014 financial statements.
Okay, have a motion for approval.
Second.
I have a second. Any further discussion? Any public comment? All right, call for the vote. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you very
Thank
much.
you.
All right, moving on to our regular agenda items. Presentation and update on the 17th Annual Ports to Plains Alliance Conference held on October 7th through the 9th, 2014 in Del Rio, Texas, and Acuña, Mexico. We have Miss Charlotte Farmer with us. Good morning, Miss Farmer.
That's me.
Morning.
Good morning.
Just sitting there waiting for the next item to come up. Good morning. How do y'all function at 8:30 in the morning?
We're a lively bunch.
Lively bunch. Well, I'm here today to report on our board meeting that we had in Del Rio, Texas, and Acuña, Mexico, for the Ports to Plains group. It was a very large meeting. It was very heavily attended. It was a very interesting meeting, and I'd like to share some of that with you. We were hosted, like I said, by Acuña, Mexico, on one day of the meet in their large new headquarters, their chamber convention center. Very nice facilities, state-of-the-arts, and everything from seating and the hall, as well as all of the new IT stuff to host, and it was very impressive, to say the least. Very well attended. While we were there, also we had the opportunity to choose and toured some manufacturing plants, and I'm sure you want to know why is that important to this board, but it has to do with the products and the shipment of items that are going through San Angelo and all around San Angelo. I could only attend one. There's just one of me. I believe Roland went to one, but I attended the Alcoa aluminum plant. And the one that you can get into, one is highly secretive as they build airplane jet engine propellers, and they don't allow you in those. But the one that I did attend made everything from the racks in your dishwashers to trays and microwaves to components in heating and cooling units. Very impressive plant. Of course, they bring the aluminum in from a different country, and then it's put in assembly line conditions there. But very clean, very impressive facility. State-of-the-art again, including any type of sterilization and parts that they do. It is amazing to me how the shavings off of aluminum, there's no waste whatsoever. Everything's done in a vacuum assembly line with all of these vacuum. Everything's done in the shavings of these parts. So any parts is vacuumed up as they're working on it through these tubes, goes up and dumps down into a big vat, several different places in the plant. And that's put back into the assembly, and everything is reused again to get the most for the poundage of aluminum that is made, the product. So it's very impressive. Their employees is the main thing that I wanted to concentrate on. The number of employees at this one plant, and they've got two plants over there with Alcoa, but that one plant was 985, I believe is what their total number of employees were. So roughly the size of the employees of the city of San Angelo. To back up just a little bit, I believe 25 years ago, the population of Acuña, Mexico was 25,000, and today it's over 250,000 people. And it is amazing. I did not recognize, as a child, I used to go over to a fishing place and young adult and never dreamed that that area could be so large, but it has sprung up. A lot of folks go there for jobs from down deep central in Mexico. So I had to ask the question of Alcoa what the average wage was for the employees there. And I think that I was advised, and please correct me if I'm wrong because my notes aren't with me today, but I believe it worked out to about $11 a day is what their average wage worked at. And at that rate, we can understand and see why a lot of companies, manufacturers, are going places to where their overhead is much less. But it's the production amount, the quality, the safety. But that's not their only benefit. They do provide on-site medical care for their employees and the families, physicians and nurses at the plants to tend to those medical needs. They do receive an additional food allowance per month, and they have some pretty nice bonuses for attendance records. And they do that because, as typical to the culture, a lot of their folks only want to work the 9 months out of the year and go back to their homes for the remainder of the year to their families. So they're constantly sending money home, not much different than migrant workers that come here. But it's a lot of activity, a lot of product. The other 3 plants, correct me, Roland, what were they that the others visited? There was a component.
Caterpillar. Caterpillar was one of the plants that we visited, and they made the for lack of a better term, the coal dump truck. It is all manufactured there, and the worth of one of those trucks was somewhere between $3 and $4 million. Wow. Yeah, all made there, and it is transported to the destination and then assembled when it gets to its destination.
It is amazing that, so how does that affect us? What does that do to us? It brings a lot of the product that is either shipped by truck through San Angelo or rail through San Angelo, and that is ever more increasing. Port to Plains, that membership roster itself, the membership dues to Port to Plains now for their membership is almost $500,000 and exceeds to $620 some when you bring $1,000 a year. When you bring in memberships and affiliates, I can tell you that the state of New Mexico is really clamoring to get on board in Port to Plains now and attract some of this business toward their states. So we are actively keeping our presence known and keeping San Angelo, Texas on the map and trying to be a business partner to a lot of the businesses in Canada that have branched out to Canada and come down here through the Dakotas and through Nebraska. It's just amazing to watch the connection. I mentioned that the membership of the Port to Plains is over 500,000. I will say that San Angelo, Texas, which takes in Tom Green County and, of course, Costa DC and the Chamber of Commerce, but our contribution annually in membership dues is just over $79,000 a year. And that is the 3rd largest one group of Port to Plains, and that does include $12,000 worth of business memberships that are in San Angelo. There are 4 businesses now that are members of Ports to Plains and feel that it's beneficial to them and been productive of them. I can tell you that Port to Plains is 16 years old, and that really is very young. And they've come a long way from their meager beginnings, but now that they're becoming more known, more and more cities are jumping on and wanting to attract this various commerce or trade through their areas for jobs. Rural West Texas, rural eastern New Mexico, rural Colorado in the southeast corner, Nebraska. It is just amazing, the small towns that want to be a part of the membership to get on board and attract business. I don't know of anything else that you might be interested in about the tour. I'm open to any questions that you may have. Your membership dollar is being well used, and we are being very well represented. I think we've had some rocky points, and Roland is this particular trip. I was very impressed with the connections that he did make with other businesses and possibilities, and it was just, I think, a new beginning for Roland, maybe not knowing anything about Port to Plains, and they have a better understanding and a liking of him and really are appreciative to have him as their connection this time. If you look at the map, I don't have a map, but I maybe should have. If you look at the map, how we're located and where we are in the Port to Plains and in the group, we are a key connection from Mexico City all the way up into Canada, from Medicine Hat over to Edmonton and Calgary, and the products that are shipped. it seems that a lot of experienced oil workers in Mexico are now going to Canada to train on how to produce the oil sands. And it amounts to jobs. The farming they do year-round in Canada, which surprised me. But that gives the workers, the migrant workers, 12 months out of the year they can work in different places because of the farming product that is being shipped right through San Angelo, Texas, either by truck or rail. And it's just tremendous to know how it works out there. Any questions?
Yeah, I've got a question, just out of curiosity. What was the name of the corporation you visited?
Alcoa.
Alcoa. And what about yours?
Caterpillar.
Okay. So both of them were American interest.
All four that they had set up for us to visit, and you chose which one that you wanted to go through. I chose Alcoa because of its diversity in aluminum products and what they make. You know, like I said, from dishwasher racks to the turbines on jet engines. It is just amazing. And watching the people work on the assembly line, the molds that are made for the part, the scrapings, the design, the coating, to watch a manufacturing and to see how it works in assembly line basis, the strictness, the safety of it, the skill and knowledge of the people that they have that work there. It's not any different than a company in the United States, except their operating overhead is much less. I happened to ask them what their electric, how many kilowatts that they used in that one plant per month, because that relates to the needs of water and power as to where you want to attract. And they use an average of 785,000 kilowatts a month at that one plant. So their electrical needs were much greater than, say, their water needs were. But impressive, very secure facility. The number of checkpoints that we had to go through just to get in through the gates, I think we had to give up the birth certificates of our firstborn before we could get in and get out. But very secure facilities. And all of the management teams were people from the United States that worked there full-time, lived in Del Rio, and that's another reason Del Rio has sprung up in the size that it has grown, is the number of manufacturing plants that are just close to us. What is that, 120 miles away?
I think one important note is I think at this annual conference you were named to the board, correct? And,
Yes.
and voted on to be on the
Yes.
board?
Good representation.
That's their mountain to climb. They got to put up with me. But,
We will be well represented.
yeah, well, I try. I love San Angelo. I love the potential that San Angelo has. We have a beauty here. We want to keep our beauty. We want to keep our style of living, but we also want to profit and to grow. And I do believe that the Porch Plains, the COSADC's involvement, as long as I've got communication back with you as to what your membership dollar is doing every quarter, and as long as we are attending, it's very advantageous for us if you look at how we're growing and the domino effect that it's doing.
Yeah.
Anything else?
All right.
Thank you.
Thank you, Charlotte.
Thank you.
All right. Next item, presentation and possible action approving amendments to the City of San Angelo Development Corporation Affordable Housing Assistance Program guidelines. Good morning, Bob Salas.
Good morning. Morning. If you recall, we came to the board last month with recommended changes to the affordable housing program. There were two main changes, if you recall. One of them was to increase the amount home buyers qualify for from $55,000 to $60,000. And the other was to allow builders who identify and vet clients to kind of work to build for those specific clients throughout the entire process. The other changes were basically very minor or administrative in nature. We contacted all the stakeholders, asked for their recommendations. We only received from Galley CDC, and we're asking the board to approve the changes as we presented.
Everybody have a chance to review those in your board packets?
Yeah.
Any questions for Mr. Salas?
I have one question.
Yes, sir.
On the previous program, there was a cap of $100,000. Is there a new cap on this new existing program?
This will, it's not per se. It's going to be it's going to depend on the back end rate, the debt to income ratios. Those have to stay. So if someone qualifies for 105,000, we will still cap our gap financing at 40,000 plus 5,000 for land. That cap will stay intact. If their ability to pay may increase, therefore the cost of the house may increase as well. So it's we're trying to keep up with the times. Obviously, it's getting more expensive.
I understand that the price is driven through the ceiling here
Sure.
recently.
They really have.
But what you're saying is the ability to borrow the money is determined by the loaner?
It's going to depend on the client's credit worthiness. That's what's going to happen.
Okay.
And that's what's going to drive it. As long as their debt-to-income ratio stays at the FHA approved numbers, they'll be able to qualify for more than 100,000.
Yeah, I just want to be careful because our prime function is really business and economic development. And, yeah, I can understand your point of view, and I can understand why that was dropped.
Sure.
Other questions? How about a motion?
So moved.
Second. Okay, I have a motion and a second for approving the amendments as stated in our packet. Any further board discussion? Any public comment? All right, I will call for the vote. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
Thank you.
Thank you, Bob. Next item, consideration and possible action regarding Neighborhood Family Services Agreement between the City of San Angelo Development Corporation and the City of San Angelo. Mr. Roland Pena.
Good morning, board members.
Morning.
Morning.
This has to do with our contract. This is the Costa DC contract and the Neighborhood Family Services. We've been involved with this contract with Neighborhood Family Services so that they can administer the affordable housing. That has to do with the authorization from the ballot side of the Costa DC funds. Allows us to use municipal personnel for that purposes, and Bob's been doing a great job. You have seen the information, the background information. The contract is executed annually, and it begins October 1. Financial impact is $30,000, and it's distributed in 2 equal payments on or before April 1st and September 30th. Let's see. Just trying to see if I had. Oh yeah, there you go. You have with you the contract. I've made some strike-throughs through some of the changes. We agreed upon this, but Bob and I have discussed some of the changes. We kind of cleaned it up for clarification purposes and kind of bring that up to date. And you can see from the performance measures that we've added an additional performance measures, quarterly reports, and seeking annual input from our stakeholders. As a result of the revision to the guidelines, we learned that is that's important to us to be able to seek the input from our stakeholders and allow them to provide their feedback in terms of what areas of improvement we'd be willing to consider. The other performance measures have to do with marketing the program, submitting the grant-related reports. All of these are program-related. Some of these performance measures do have some statistics that need to be provided to us, like the number of applications, the number of projects, and number of houses closed. You may see to my left, we have some maps. The last time the maps were produced was in 2010, and actually these maps came at the request of Councilwoman Farmer, who had grown used to the production of these maps. We used our GIS teams to produce this, but the reason I'm directing your attention to that you can see the impact of that program. All those pink dots are related to the Neighborhood and Family Services and the Affordable Housing Program. So it's pretty impressive, and so I just wanted to highlight that for you. On the left, you have a more general map of what those sales tax dollars went to on the ballot side, and then obviously on the right, the larger map is much more detail. With that, I'd be open to any questions you may have.
Questions?
Roland, I guess this is it applies to several agenda items, so I'll ask it here. Did all of our contracts that we have, are they being reviewed? Were they reviewed by, when we had our audit, or we may still be in process, but were all the contracts reviewed?
Every contract that is open and pending, and that included our staff services contract, which includes Neighborhood and Family Services and the staff services contracts, are being reviewed. So under the terms of procedure that basically defines the scope with the auditors, we included all the contracts.
Okay. I've got some other questions, but I'll hold them until later when on a couple of the other items, so thank you.
Okay.
Other questions? Public comment. All right, I need a motion.
Move approval.
All right, I have a motion for approval.
I'll second.
Second by Mr. Barrio. Call for the vote. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you, Bob. All right, next item, consideration and possible action regarding staff services agreement between the City of San Angelo Development Corporation and the City of San Angelo. Mr. Pena.
All right, this is the second city staff services contract. In order to allow these services to be provided, we are required by law to have this contract. It's no different from the prior vote that you took with affordable housing. It allows us to use municipal personnel in the contract. You may recall during budget time back in June and in August, I provided some allocations. Those allocations that you see in this contract were what you approved during that budget process. I have agreed upon with those internal departments those allocations. The contract does outline the scope of service, the compensation, and the performance measures. We've had a contract with the City of San Angelo since inception. Again, just like with the affordable housing contract, this is an annual contract that is usually executed before October 1 and begins October 1. The annual impact is $382,294, and we do provide payment to the city, 2 equal payments payable on or before June 25th and September 30th. You'll see from the contract a lot of strike-throughs, so I took a lot of time reviewing what I felt was outdated and needed some clarification. I incorporated the prioritization of goals because that's something we focused on and felt that was important, and it allows us to be accountable. It also talks about the compliance of the incentive agreements and the budget and performance measures. We added more emphasis on the business recruitment, retention, and expansion, since that is one of a priority goal, and we want to make sure that we're accountable to those goals. In addition to, and I'm hoping I do a better job than I did yesterday, and this sort of tees you up for the next item, but the council amended the Water Advisory Board ordinance, and in that ordinance, they asked for a representative, or the Costa DC appoint a representative, whether it be a board of director or an employee that provides staff services to Costa DC. You may remember that I brought that to you last month, and at the 11th hour we had Alicia, who was here at that point, mentioned that we had a conflict conflict was that the Economic Development Corporation ordinance that is the administration ordinance, basically tells you how the Costa DC board of directors appointed and their term and how they can be replaced. In that ordinance, I'm going to move. In that ordinance, it basically states that a board of director cannot serve on another board or commission. And the other conflict was that the employee cannot serve on a board or commission unless it's part of their job responsibilities. So in order to meet the requirement of the amended Water Advisory Board ordinance, we've added this as a responsibility for the Economic Development Director. So in the next item, should you choose to select a board of director that meets the requirement of the revised city ordinance with regard to the Economic Development Corporation being able to serve. Yesterday we had the first public hearing on that revision. The second reading will occur on December the 2nd. That's a lot of information to give you with regard to that responsibility, but what I'm trying to explain is why that is included in the staff services contract. It just prepares us. It was really a lot of strategic mapping for us, strategic thinking and mapping and getting prepared to determine what you're going to do during this board meeting. Obviously, you can strike that out and just select a board of director in the next item. That's your choice. These are just a highlight of some of the performance measures. Obviously, making sure that the board packet is provided on Friday, no later than Friday before the Wednesday Costa DC board meeting. We did have the mentioning of the social media and website tracking, presenting staff updates during the Costa DC board meetings, providing quarterly updates on the strategic and organizational goals, and making sure that we provide incentive offers within 10 days of Costa DC and City Council approval. Ensuring the compliance of the contract terms and performance measures to grant or incentive payments, and the development of the business retention expansion program, marketing plan, timeline, and incentive policy. With that, I'd be open to any questions that you may have.
Roland, when I was looking through this, remind me, this looks like we just have a stated dollar amount that we pay. How did we establish those amounts? Do we get itemized invoices showing the services we received, an hourly rate for the people providing those services? If we don't, I would toss out to my fellow board members an idea that, we have, since you've been here, you have prompted us to try to be even more transparent. Maybe we need to, in all of our contracts, all of them, I don't care, city services, chamber, whatever contracts we have, go to I guess I would call it a reimbursement method, so that we see if it's human capital, then there's an hourly rate associated with the individual performing the service for us, and then if there's any other hard dollar costs, then have some of those things too, so we can see, and then we reimburse based on that. So I'd just toss that out for board conversation in all of our contracts, as opposed to just saying, here's a check.
Do the board members want to comment, or
I'm
can I-
throwing that for the board, for you, for the
Okay.
board members, for the
Yeah.
public.
well,
That makes sense.
I
That'd be
see
great.
Morgan sneaking up back here, but let me take one stab, and she may share more information, because I know she's had the history with this. But in the process of developing the budget, we did look at some of these departments did provide a justification. They had their hourly rate and estimated hours that they spend. Not all departments had that, and you may also recall that I asked finance during that process to help me do a true up of these costs, because we really want to be accurate about this. I don't think we've had such a true up since maybe, I don't know, 5 years ago. Could be 2010. But you may notice that I've included that in the performance measure for finance, and I did talk to Tina last week, and she was agreeable to that. And so we're hoping to have that number in advance to meet the requirement that the board set for us in terms of trying to enter into the budget process in the March or April timeframe. So I've asked for that. I think in the process of the compliance of the contracts, we're already starting to account differently when we make the payments. We want to make sure that the compliance, that the invoice complies with the performance measures. In other words, we're not making payment until we are assured that they've met the requirements of the contract. At least that's what we're doing in terms of partner contracts. The contracts with the incentive contracts with the companies, that's a little bit more straightforward. I mean, we actually know whether they're meeting the requirements, and we can make payment. But I guess the gray area lies more with the other contracts, but we're making those adjustments. Morgan, did you want to make a comment? Okay.
Just to speak to the transparency, Mr. Hebert, Rebecca Tambunga prepares biannual invoices as it relates to the staff services contract. And so we provide as much detail there as possible to prove that performance measures were met, that actual expenditures occurred. We really deal with the staff services contract in two separate ways. One, for example, for the services that it relates to city clerk, finance, and other staff like that, support staff, if there is a flat dollar amount, X thousands of dollars, we'll request half of that be reimbursed halfway through the year, and the final half the remainder of the year. If there are vacancies in the finance department, we will just make sure that we reassign staff, that the Development Corporation measures are met. So if the performance measures are met, then we request reimbursement for half of that contract amount. The other way we do staff services, it's really cut into two parts, is direct staff, the direct people that support the board and the missions on a daily basis, specifically Mr. Pena, Mr. Schneeman, and Ms. Regino. And so we will use actual costs there. So for example, last year where you had vacancies in some of your full-time staff, you had some savings in your staff services contract. We would only request reimbursement for actual direct expenses as it relates to those staff services. And so that's provided in the disbursement for consideration that it does comply with the contract, that it does show actual expenditures, and that everything has been done to comply and to perform, so that it's an up to amount. It's not you automatically get this amount. If that speaks to kind of the transparency of it.
I like what you're saying. I would even maybe go a step further. Folks in your department, that everybody makes a different wage, I would just assign that unit value just for even more transparency for the folks that work on that particular item, to show, here's the dollar amount based on that person's unit cost. I like what you're saying, so I would just maybe take it one step further, would be my thought, so that there's not any question as to what service we're getting and what the cost of that service is.
That's our endeavor as well, that there would be no question to the service that you're getting, that you're absolutely getting what you're paying for.
Could we have a quarterly financial statement?
I was going to say, maybe until, if we're going to make this change on a unit basis, Roland, maybe quarterly, maybe semi-annually, but to show us as the board, here's what the unit cost was for the service provided. We don't need a name in there, but we can have a unit dollar amount in there. Is that something that's possible? So if, Morgan, if you're working on it, you've got a unit value. If Tina's working on it, if Jaime's working on it, those are going to be different amounts. That to me, that is really transparent to say, and then we've got an up to amount that is budgeted, but if we don't use all of that, then
We have that for the finance department. I don't know for the other services that support you. We can assist with creating some greater level of detail. I can't really speak to
Sure.
how
I would
much that
assume,
translates.
The legal department, she's got different unit values in there. So, to me, that would be as transparent as we could be.
Thank you, Morgan. Let us huddle up. I mean, I meet with, we've been incorporating some changes, but I do meet with Morgan and Tina on a regular basis. And so let us huddle up and discuss that and see if we can make that happen for you. I don't know what the challenge is going to be, and I don't know if we're, but let's
I was going to say
let's give it a shot. Yes.
Yeah. Let's walk down the path, and then maybe it may be impossible, but
Right.
maybe.
And one other thing, I did get a question. I can't remember from one of the board members. I don't know which one called me, but I think it's important to note that this staff services contract, as you notice, is a higher amount than it was prior year. What is different is that all of the staff for economic development is under the Costa DC budget, where in prior years I think it was divided between general fund and Costa DC fund. So that is different. I think when we get into
I'm going to put you on the spot, Roland.
Sure.
Were you directed to do that?
No, I don't. No, I wasn't directed, but I know that that's how it played out. I really didn't know any better, I guess, is my point. But what I do want to say was, I wasn't concerned about it, but because I want, as you heard me say, I want to have Tina help me determine what is a more accurate cost number for the services that we provide. So I think in that process, as we do the true up, I think we can determine, hey, a certain time of the economic development personnel is spent on economic development projects that are not related to Costa DC. So
I was going to say, you folks do some things for the city of San Angelo that may not have anything to do on a basis what you guys do day in and day out, but they're more the larger view of economic development. Does the city have, Morgan, Tina, does the city have a line item in general fund that's an economic development line item that helps with those sorts of things?
Not as such, no, sir. The intent was that all economic development would be part of the half-cent sales tax, the 28% of the half-cent sales tax. Are the items that you're working on that are not Development Corporation, are they tiers related, or we can do more research on that. I'm not right off, I don't have a solution for you.
Okay, well, that's just a thought. Just a thought.
in the true up, we can determine that.
In all fairness, too, there's been a lot of reorganization with the economic development, and we've hired more people, assigned different people to different tasks, and so I'm sure, from a transparent standpoint, that's part of the adjustment in this contract. Is it not?
Say that again, Director. Let me see
Well,
if I clarify that.
We, 5 years ago, our operations were not quite a bit different, but slightly different from what they are today. We've hired new people, assigned different people to do different tasks. So that would be reflected in this contract as well, would it not?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, and just to give you an example, I mean, for the benefit of the audience, because I'm sure they're, Councilwoman Farmer, she always points this out, that we do have an audience, a TV audience that monitors our meetings, and it's good to be able to state a lot more details. And so I'll give you an example. If we have an economic development project that is inside the city limits that we're working on to recruit, and we don't have to use half-cent sales tax funds for an incentive or to provide infrastructure, but we help to attract that project inside the city limits, but increases the tax base and creates jobs. That is economic development. That is an economic development project that's happening elsewhere inside the city limits that is not affected, that does not affect the half-cent sales tax. So that's a good example. We may be working on a project there, we may be working on a project somewhere else inside city limits, but does not affect the half-cent sales tax, or we don't utilize the half-cent sales tax. And it could be a retail project. Maybe it's a retail project that creates the destinations that helps increase the sales tax, that helps increase the tax base, that creates jobs. So those are two examples that I feel like are not half-cent sales tax related, but it is an economic development activity. That's just an example.
Well, it's just some more food for thought as you huddle up, as you said, with the finance folks to see if that's something that might be for us to approach city council with to see if that's something they might agree with and agree to. Just a thought.
Yes, sir.
Mr. Hewitt, if I may, to circle back to your original question on when we used to have time split between the two.
Right.
You may recall that at that time it was the Community and Economic Development Department, and so the director's time and at the time my time were split 70% economic development,
Right.
30% general fund, because we did have specific general fund activities that we were still supporting on the development services side. When we split the departments, that's when the determination was made that our salaries would go 100% to the Development Corporation. Now it's probably a good idea to re-examine that and try to get another evaluation of it. But that's where that original change from a 70-30 split to 100%. That's where that came from, is when we split the departments back out.
Okay.
And directors, I welcome these kinds of comments, these kinds of directives that you're providing, because I think it's healthy for us to continue to evolve. I mean, as we continue to be more proactive in our economic development efforts, we're going to have to change. It cannot be the same, we've done it this way for so many years, and this is the same contract that we've had for so many years, and it's worked. I think we have to evolve with the market and with our competitors. We've got to try to stay ahead of them, and there's some changes I think that we can make, and we're already doing that with the emphasis on the business retention and expansion, and I'm excited about what's in store for us. So I welcome this discussion. I welcome these questions, because I think it provides that food for thought as we continue to be more strategic moving forward.
Just to reemphasize, then, I would encourage you to do that with our other contracts that are not city related, city staff services related at all, that you look at the performance measures, that you reevaluate those if you need to change those, because I think you're still in the process of working on all of those too. So I would encourage you to look at all of those to see if there's ways to make those better too.
Yes, sir.
I've got one comment. I haven't sat on this board very long, but I've seen a much more positive move towards what the primary purpose of Development Corporation in Texas is. And that's the fact that they have evolved in developing an active, pretty much full-time service that going towards businesses to see how we can help. And I was recently at the world's largest manufacturers trade show, which is FabTech, once a year, and I noticed there are a lot of folks up there from economic development from the state of Texas. Plainview was one. Waxahachie was another one. A lot of East Texas folks. It'd be good if we could have some people right from San Angelo, because those people solicit
Yes.
fabrication businesses all over the United States while they're at that show. And although I don't know how successful they've been, I know they have been successful in one or two instances. And so I'm pleased with what I'm seeing.
Other comments or discussion? Sounds to me like we need to table this item, perhaps? Or go ahead? We good?
Yeah, I think you can go ahead and approve it. I mean, I don't understand why you'd have to table it. Yeah, I think you approve it, and you know where we're headed in terms of a true up for March and April in terms of a budget.
Okay. All right.
I'd move approval.
And I will second.
Have a motion and a second. A public comment?
Charlotte Farmer, just wanted to add a little insight. Ms. Chibert, you're exactly right. It's not a new concept of accounting for finance time, legal's time. Back when COSADC was created and staff people have to account and manage the money from the half-cent sales tax. So in order, your expenses, your admin cost has gone up as the more projects that you get and look at, and we have to pay, the city has to account for legal's time, city clerk's time, finance's time, whomever is involved in whatever projects that Roland or Bob brings for us, that a time is accounted for and you're charged out. And I think it's a great idea, especially for the public, for transparency, to see that admin consists of so many hours per week or month, for legal, so many hours per week or month, of finance, auditing, whatever needs to be there, it's accounted for. That was the concept as to why COSADC started getting charged out for those, is because it was taking that kind of time to oversee the half-cent sales tax. So in continuance and in transparency, it should be, and it should be invoiced for record, and to know how much each project cost us internally and what the rewards are. And the other thing on your subject that I wanted to mention was the board positions. That was changed years ago to prevent anyone on the COSADC board from having a conflict with a business coming in, because it's hard to prevent, all of you are for a wide variety of backgrounds, and to have any pros or against a competitor coming in. If you didn't sit on another board, there wasn't that competition. I served on the water to reorganize the Water Advisory Board. And water is the key component to all of us for our being here. And what we do in business creates a burden on water. And changing the guides of the Water Board is to an ongoing board that's in constant search of water rights, buying and purchasing. And it only made good sense to include a person from this board, because it has such a bearing on what y'all do, and it's better to have you in the process and to know what's going on in the city or coming down the pike, to include, so that you know beforehand, so that you can discuss internally. I don't have any preferences, and we didn't have any preferences whether it's a staff person that you assign or a rotating board member that you assigned. It just seemed to be very, very prudent to include. And speaking of boards, it's not a board, it's a committee. I had asked at the last Investment Oversight Committee that items be forwarded to you, Mr. Chris, and I hope that they were, with reference to the amount of money that the COSADC oversees. You certainly have a value and a say and a presence in the investment of those dollars, and should be aware. And I'm asking that you also consider making that a part of, and a person to attend and be a part of the investment. Just my 2 cents worth.
Thank you, ma'am. Further public comment? Board comment? I have a motion and a second for approval. Call for the vote. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Next item, consideration and possible action regarding a board nomination by Development Corporation and designated member to the Water Advisory Board.
So I've talked about the amendment on the COSA DC, or on the Economic Development Corporation ordinance. The council did approve that amendment yesterday.
Forgive
this-
me, it does need 2 readings.
That is correct, but they approved the amendment for the first reading. And then it does have a second reading on December the 2nd. This is how it read: no person shall be appointed as a director who is an employee, officer, or member of the city council of the city, or a member of any board or commission of the city. And the revision was the insertion of that underlined text, except that a director may be appointed to serve as a member of the Water Advisory Board. I mentioned the fact that the city policy did not allow an employee to serve on a board or commission. And we've also made the change, and obviously Licia, our legal counsel, came up with the language, unless doing so is a requirement of their position. So that is the change. We did include it in the staff services contract. If you choose to appoint a staff member, this is the economic development director. The language in the contract read, shall serve on the Water Advisory Board if appointed. So here's the sequence. Since you approved the contract, it'll go to City Council now for their ratification. It will occur on December the 2nd, which is the same time that the Economic Development Corporation ordinance has its second reading. And I believe that they can make their appointment since it'll be at the same meeting.
Correct, after the approval of after the
After the second reading?
Second reading, yes.
Alicia, could we do it contingent that it does get approved on the, can we make a form of a motion or a resolution appointing our director contingent that it does get approved on the December 2nd?
Absolutely. You can make that recommendation, and then at the council meeting, we'll have an
Ratify.
item that articulates your recommendation.
Board members, now, all we have done is covered all our bases. So, I mean, you don't have to appoint the director. I mean, you can appoint a board member. All we wanted to do is make sure we covered all the bases, not knowing what your thought process was going to be. But this allows it to move forward swiftly and timely for the city council to accomplish what they want done in terms of the Water Advisory Board meeting ordinance.
If we ask you, do you have time? Or can you
For-
you make time or not really?
I can make time. I can make time. From what I remember, they are to meet at least quarterly. That's what I remember. I think it's important, as Councilwoman Farmer stated, it's an important piece of economic development, and we do, as you can see from the map, we have a significant investment. Obviously, the voters, mandated that. I mean, they wanted to secure future water supplies, but I think it's important as we continue to grow. It's important for economic development, and I do not mind serving if that's the will of the board.
And the same laws apply here regardless. If you were appointed as a member of the Water Advisory Board and there was a conflict of interest, you would have to step out.
That's correct.
So it wouldn't make any difference. I mean, it's not like it's going to be a conflict of interest if you were appointed as a director or anything else. You would still have to comply with state law.
That's correct.
I think the concept that was in the personnel manual for employees not to serve on boards was just more of a influence or not necessarily dual appointment as a board member, but I can't perceive of there being a conflict for an employee to serve on the water board, because that employee is then not on city council, but the dual office holding, for example, for a council member to sit on a board, or one of the directors to sit on another board, and then a decision comes back to them, but they've already had first bite at the apple. I think that was the concept that was at stake. But I think there's less of an issue with the employee.
I'd move unless one of the board members just has a burning desire to do this. I'd move that we appoint. I'd make a motion we appoint our director, our executive director, Roland Pena, to this position.
I second that.
Contingent upon.
I'll third it.
No,
Consistent with our discussion in our last meeting.
Correct.
I think we're just proceeding on.
We are.
And
Now, your motion is contingent upon
Contingent
passing,
upon, yes,
the second reading at City Council on
Correct.
December the 2nd.
That is correct.
Okay. All right. Any public comment? Further board discussion? Call for the vote. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Next item, presentation and update by staff regarding the City of San Angelo Development Corporation Business Retention and Expansion Program. Mr. Bob Schneeman.
Thank you. I'll make this fairly quick. Board may recall that the August 27th meeting, the board approved our business retention expansion policy guidelines and the program. Excuse me, I'm sorry. It was a little hard to swallow.
Time's up. Sorry, Tom. I'm sorry. I'm sorry.
For the benefit of the public, the timer just went off up here. Thank you, Mr. President. At the September 2nd meeting of the City Council, they also approved the Business Retention and Expansion Plan Program and Policy Guidelines, with the approval of basically giving us administrative approval authority as long as the project complies with the guidelines. So it comes to, basically what that means, it would come to Costa DC, and provided it's strictly within the guidelines set forth, it doesn't have to go to council for an additional approval. So we can move a little quicker on business retention and expansion if we need to. At the October 22nd meeting, the board was briefed on the draft of the marketing plan, and we had some good comments from the board, and those are being incorporated. And then on October 27th, we started getting all of our economic development partners together in a series of training sessions. I'll hand these out to, or I'll make these available to everybody, but this is a handout that we did at the first meeting that basically just outlines all of the policies and guidelines within the Business Retention and Expansion Program. And it's not intended to be sent out to potential customers. It's strictly for our use and our partners' use. But, and like I said, I'll be happy to give copies to the board. But we started a training program to, first of all, educate our economic development partners on what we can and can't do with half-cent sales tax. And then each partner at subsequent meetings is going to give a training session on their particular part of the program so that everyone is familiar. We don't all want to be experts on somebody else's business, but we do want to have a basic understanding of what each one of us can do. And the idea is that, for example, if Roland and I go out and talk with a business, we may say, you know, this is something that maybe we can't do half-cent sales tax with, but you know what, Workforce has a program that can help you, or Small Business Development Center has a program that can help you. Howard College has training programs available. We'd like to all be at least familiar with the other guy's offerings. So at the 27th, on October 27th, Costa DC staff did the initial training on our program. November 5th, Concho Valley Workforce Development Board covered a lot of their incentives and their training opportunities available and other services that they have. December 10th, Howard College will be doing a presentation to our partners on the training programs available that they have, and then we'll follow up with Small Business Development Center. That date is yet to be determined. Staff is currently working to prioritize some 1,800 companies that have eligible NAICS codes. I think the last time I was in front of the board, I was talking something in the neighborhood of about 380 companies. Workforce produced another list for us, and what we're finding is there are a number of lists out there. Some of these companies are 1- and 2-man companies, 1- and 2-person companies, sorry. And so what we've looked at now is we're trying to sort through those and determine eligibility based on the type of business that they really are. For example, and I think I've given the example before, bakeries, commercial bakeries have a NAICS code that's eligible. However, all bakeries fall under that same NAICS code for the most part, and a lot of them are just retail. They don't apply to us. So we're having to go through and comb through those and identify the ones that are available. I mean, that are actually eligible based either on their NAICS code or their actual business practices. And as recently as yesterday, as a matter of fact, I just looked at it, I did a quick count this morning. We had our young intern go through and do a sort by number of employees and filter it out. And we have over, if we sort by companies with 10 employees or more, which might be our first priority, and that's kind of what we're looking at anyway. There's about 150 companies that fall within that range, and if we take that down to 5 or more, it's about 350. So that's the process that we're going through now, is trying to identify and prioritize those initial visits, the initial contacts, and the mail-outs that will be going out, and then follow-up questionnaires. And that's kind of where we are with the program.
Do you have a target date when we'll actually, I guess, make the first call? Next year?
I think it'll be right after the first of the year.
Super.
The only reason I say that is because as we come into the holidays, it's probably going to be a bit difficult to get in front of people. Mm-hmm. But I'd like to really have it set, ready to go right after the first of the year.
Great.
The other piece of that is the marketing piece. Bob's working on developing what that direct mail piece will look like. So it may work very well in that we can do the mail out in December and begin the visits in January.
That'd be great.
Yep.
Yeah.
Great. Other board comment? All right.
Thank you,
Bob. All right, last item on regular agenda, consideration and possible action regarding the approval of the 2015 meeting schedule. Senior Administrative Assistant Nora Regino.
Good morning.
Good morning.
For our viewers, the City of San Angelo Development Corporation board meetings are held the fourth Wednesday of each month at 8:30 a.m. here at the Convention Center in the Council Chambers room. Today, I'm here to present to you the 2015 meeting schedule. I have verified the meeting dates. I verified also the dates to the San Angelo ISD school calendar. The meeting dates do not conflict with holidays nor spring break. I have adjusted the meetings for November and December in observance of the holidays. I have provided each of you a copy of the 2015 calendar year with the meetings circled. If you would like to take a moment to review the schedule, or if the board has any questions for me, I'll be more than happy to answer at this time.
I'd move approval of the 2015 calendar.
I second that.
All right, I bet they're good. Call for the vote. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
All right, thank you.
All right, do we have an executive session? All right, it is now 9:39. And we will move to executive session. Executive session under the provision of Government Code Title V, Open Government Ethics, Subtitle A, Open Government Chapter 551, Open Meetings, Subchapter D, exceptions to that requirement that meetings be open. Section 551.0712, to consult with an attorney on a matter in which the duty of the attorney to the government body under the Texas Disciplinary Rules of Professional Conduct of the State of Bar of Texas clearly conflicts with this chapter. Section 551.072, to deliberate the purchase, exchange, lease, or value of real property. Section 551.087, to discuss an offer of financial or other incentive to a company or companies with whom the City of San Angelo Development Corporation is conducting economic development negotiations with the City of San Angelo Development Corporation seeks to have, locate, stay, or expand in the City of San Angelo. We are in executive session. All right, we're back live. Okay, it is 10 o'clock. We are out of executive session. There was no action items need to be reported on. So we will move back into open session, follow up on administrative items, staff updates, announcements, future agenda items, et cetera, et cetera. Does anyone have any requests for future agenda?
Nothing at this time.
You guys, y'all are good?
We're good.
Any staff updates?
Yes, having to do with the partner contracts, I've heard the direction that the board provided today. Hopefully we'll have those contracts completed and brought forth to you at the next December board meeting.
Okay.
If we encounter some issues with that, I'll let you know. But I anticipate bringing it December. The other announcement, I guess I can move to announcement, is that we had the MedHab conference, and several board members attended, and they were able to sign this poster board. The announcement was the endorsement of Michael Johnson, and so we have some pins for those board members that were unable to attend. If you'd like to sign that, we are keeping that at the BRC as a milestone for MedHab, and hopefully that company will continue to move forward and make progress with this new development, and we're excited about that. Do you have any other announcements?
You might mention the Connected Texas event that's coming up the 4th of December. Board members will all be getting notification of it. Connected Texas is basically it's an effort to get broadband internet service throughout the state of Texas, and there's a certification process that goes along with that. From what we can tell, Tom Green County is about 97% served right now by broadband internet service, but if we can get it to, and the city of San Angelo certainly is 100% served from what we can tell. Or the service is available to 100% of the city anyway. So that certification will be another marketing tool that we can use. And it also, I believe, is going to open us up for some potential grants, if not for the city or for even the companies, but maybe for some of the nonprofits to maybe receive grants for to help them get internet access and that sort of thing. So you'll be getting an email letter from me, hopefully today.
We'll look forward to it.
So as you can tell, we're really trying to take advantage of that low-hanging fruit. And this, when that was brought to us, we saw the potential. I think this will help us as we target perhaps some of those IT companies, and that we can state that. And we looked at the certifications in the state of Texas, and there's very few communities that are certified. So that's another. It's cool. Just another opportunity just landed in our lap. But we are working with our partners, Michael Looney and Small Business Development Center, to help work to try to meet that. And so it'll be another initiative for us.
Cool. All right.
That's all I have.
How about the best motion of the day?
I move we adjourn.
I'll second.
Motion and a second. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. We're adjourned. Thank you all.